Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Pulling up our topic for the day. Looks like I don't even have none of my little things up that shows who I am. Well, that's okay. I don't know why that's happened. It's all right. I am not going to worry about it too tough. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you all been around before, you know this is the Unfiltered Show where we talk about Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, those kind of things, right? We basically answer your questions that you may have about Scrum and Agile, and we kind of leave it at that, and we do our best, and we forget the rest. That's what we do. So today is going to be an interesting topic. Again, I don't have slides that I'm showing anything like that. We're going to talk about fear of success, self-sabotage. That's what we're talking about today. Self-sabotage, right? Something that I think we all face. I even face to this very day. I sometimes self-sabotage myself. And I know when I'm doing it, that I should quit, but I do it to myself. So I'll probably provide you all with a simple example and allow us to talk about it a tad bit. But it happens to all of us. Self-sabotage, right? So sometimes fear of success, it hits you even when you're being a little successful, right? A little successful. So these are good things, right? So on that note, let's see. What's been going on with you all? If you're here, say hi. As usual, we are recording this. I'm over here just grabbing information so we can have it available when it's time to go. But yeah, I'm good. But key up those questions and stuff like that so we can be good to go. You know how I operate. We answer questions as long as we need to. If we don't have any questions, we'll just end a little early and we'll be done. If we have lots and lots of questions, we'll go longer. It's all good. I can do either or, right? My kids are grown, so I don't have to worry about that too much more. If you all, this weekend, I bought something. I bought something I had to add to the little kit, and it's this guy right here. I love Snoopy, so look at this. I'm kind of a big deal. See that? That's all me right there, yo. I ain't never gonna drink out of it. But you see that? I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it, right? So I gotta find a good place to have it, right? But that just is what it is. Nothing real special. So what's going on with me this week? Man, client work. If there's one thing I got going on for real, yeah, CT, that's a big ceramic. Yes, I guess it's a big ceramic cup. I don't know what the heck it's made out of, right? But I'm assuming it's a big ceramic cup, but it's huge. It is big. Let's see. Probably what's going on with me this week, man. Client work. Today, getting stuff done in terms of classes. Had to get next year's schedule together. So, and then it's all being ready to be posted, right? So next year's schedule coming together in terms of classes. So, that took up the vast majority of my day. The rest of this week will be about, I got to dive back into classes. Every week there's stuff to be done. So that got to happen. Got some work to do for the client. That is gonna be a big week for me with the client, because there's some good things we're working through. Had a very successful week with them last week, so it's just good. So I'm just doing what I do, and then we're just kind of going on. Yeah, it's a big cup, Denise. Trust me. Yeah, that's a big cup. It's crazy how big this cup is. This cup is as big as my head. That's a big cup, man. It's just a huge cup. But I like it. I like it because it got one of my favorite guys on there. It got Snoopy. And Snoopy is a beagle. And I really like beagles. I really, really do. So on that note, let's start having a conversation. Let's talk about this whole self-sabotage thing. I think it's a big deal. It's a big deal for me. Hey, Miss White, how you doing? Hey, CT, how you doing? What's up, Rajiv? How's it going? But let me jump into this topic, this whole self-sabotage thing. And I'm going to give you a story, right? I run into situations where I see people that obviously have a fear of success. It's just obvious. And they do things that don't help them to be able to deal with that situation. We wrote an article about it, released that article last week sometime. And we're going to talk about how to overcome those things. And this is all listed in the article, so I'll mention those things from the article. But let me just tell you a little story to give you an idea on how it has shown up for me recently, right? So, probably last year, I have a client, worked really close with, done great work, super impressed by the work, and we're not quite a vendor for them, so they kind of pay us, with the credit cards and things like that, but we don't go through their system, so and then they're doing the net 930, net 90, whatever it is, right? We'd save money if we went through their system. And just done several one-off pieces of work, right? So at one point, the person that's most excited about the work that I'm doing comes to me, gives me a name, a telephone number, and says, you need to reach out to that person because I need you to become a vendor. So then we can make sure we line up things for you, right? I did not reach out to that person. And I'll tell you why, so you understand. And this is the reason why I bring this up, right? I pushed it off. I do it next week. I didn't do it next week. I do it the week after. And it just didn't happen. Just never happened. It never came to fruition, right? And it's me. It's completely me. My thought process was, and I'll be really, really honest with you, that bringing all that work back into BE would just really take a lot of time, right? I'd have to jump back out there and do a lot more stuff. I'd have to make some commitments that maybe I'm ready to make, maybe not ready to make. Not that I've never done big work. We've always done big work. But am I ready to do that big work again, right? And the truth of the matter is, it's just, the excuse I used was that I'm in a PhD program. And the thing is that for other things that's happened in my life, I stopped going to school and just took a small break, right? For one organization I trained earlier that year, about 400 people, and so the work, that wasn't it. It's just that I have this thing where I know that I can do a great job for them, right? But what I also know is that it will change some of the relationships with the people that I have there, right? It would meet a dream, right? Because I really want to work on some of the hardest problems that exist. But then it would become a place where I would be there for multiple years trying to help them change. And I have such a commitment to the change that it just, it's almost like I don't want to disappoint myself, right? Because I also know the other side of the equation is organizations change at their pace, they don't change at my pace, right? And so it's like I know I would be crazy successful there. I know it could make people a little jealous. I know it could cause some problems. You know, a lot of times people just don't expect to see somebody who looks like me walk through the door, right? And every time I don't want to feel that. You know, I just don't want to feel it, right? Because I still go in and do the work, right? I've never been the guy who ever wanted to not do coaching. I never wanted to only run a business, right? And so if it becomes big and it puts me in a position where, hey, you know what, I can be done, you know, that's a great thing. But, you know, it also puts me in a position where I could be done, where I could lose some of the skills that I do have. I never want to be in that position. It also puts me deeper into that same kind of work. And again, you know, I also know that they have problems where if I'm just doing training, it's going to frustrate me. It will also turn into me doing some coaching at some point. But if I'm not coaching with the right people at the right level, I know I can have success with the teams. But the more success I have, the more access I get to higher ups, the more access I get to higher ups, the more it turns into something bigger than what I was ever expecting. But all I need to do is make a simple call. Make a simple call to a warm lead. And I didn't. Because of all these things in my head that were about knowing that I could be successful, knowing that I can knock it out the park, but simply finding reasons not to do it, make that contact every day. When I even say to myself on a regular basis that the number one thing, like bringing in money into the company, takes priority over other things, right? And this is one of those things that would have brought more money into the company. Yeah, I'm a little ashamed about it, to be honest with you, right? Because it's not something it's not something I do. I mean, I've done it before to some degree, right? But I don't normally do this kind of stuff. I kind of go after things, right? It's ridiculous how hard I go after things, right? So it troubles me to this day. I feel bad about it, actually, right? You know, and I can say there was a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. But again, a lot of stuff going on. The additional money would have just meant all I would have did is hired people to do the additional work, and then it would have been a different story. So I know how to solve those problems. But I still didn't make the call, right? Still didn't make the call. So I really think that fear of success, self-sabotage is something that we all deal with no matter what level you're at. No matter what level you're at. So I just wanted to kind of mention that to you because that's my story, right? Has it happened to me before? Yeah, it's happened before. Yeah, definitely. Will it be the last time it happens? It probably won't be. Probably won't be. You know, I'll find some excuses for some things later. And I see it happen in other people around me, right? And so I don't even get frustrated when I see it happen, right? Now, if you go out and read the article that I put out there last week, you will notice the first thing that I really tell you to do is to make sure you identify your fears, right? You know, if I was to identify my fear was really about meeting the dream that I really want to meet. Like I have this. There's certain places I want to work, and this place I really do want to work, and it's almost like you go there and you just this is the home run to retire. And I'm not ready to hit that home run yet. I'm just not. All right. Not saying I don't have control over that, because I do, right? I really do, but it's something I know in me that's there, right? I mean, but here's a question to you all that's here, right? Um, you've run into a fear of success, right? I can't be the only one, right? Where you've self-sabotaged, right? What were some of the fears that you had? What were some of the fears that you had, right? But I know mine was that home run, hitting that home run, and it'd be another one of those things that kind of changed my life to some degree. And I'm kind of comfortable where I'm at right now, right? Now, the next thing, at least in that article, is to break down your fears, right? To think about that fear that you identified earlier and break it down and figure out ways that you can actually deal with those things, mitigate them to some degree, right? Yeah, that can always help you, right? Because that's the identification of it. It gets you kind of moving in a direction, right? Probably the third thing I mentioned on that list is to focus on the benefits of success. You know, the benefit for me would have been a contract where I could have brought more people in and hired more people I like to work with. Sometimes I like to just work with certain people and just get the opportunity to do that, right? It would have gave me the opportunity to do those kind of things, right? Um, just flips, because it could turn big so fast. So the next thing that I would say is take small steps. Just make sure that they are concrete, really bold steps, right? You do that, you're probably living good, right? And then the last thing is be consistent with it, because every time you knock out this kind of fear, you have a tool for similar fears. You'll have new, bigger, better ones that try to trap you. But at least you have some tools or some things you've done to help with some of those things that you've seen. So it becomes one of those things where it's just really good for you, right? I kind of dove into this article years ago because I had a different fear. I really had a different fear. And that fear, that fear was way more personal, right? Probably fear of being alone, right? That led to other things, right? Even though I know I thrive when I'm alone, get a lot of stuff done, and I ultimately did. But you run into these things all the time, right? And it's not something I shake a stick at. It's something that I'm kind of learning to figure out how I can break free and just do what it takes to really achieve my dreams, right? Because I've achieved lots of dreams, but I got more than I want to achieve, right? So yeah, it's just a great thing, just an amazing yet great thing. Well, my question for you is, you've been in a situation before where you self-sabotage, right? How did you get past that? That's what I'm curious about. How did you get past that, right? I mean, I just did other work. You know, haven't done work with that client since, yes, but not the big thing that could pull me really in, pull me and the organization in. Haven't done that. So I think we all face it. I think we all deal with it. I'm just curious how you deal with it. So yeah, so it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and more people run into it. I just see it often enough, and I see it with people I love and care about. Right? I won't mention any names, but people I love and care about. I see it all the time. I've seen it over the years. I've seen it constantly. Um, and we can use our kids as excuses. We can use, it just almost anything can be an excuse. So it's just part of what it is, right? So on that note, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. Because this one is, just a little bit emotional for me, because these are times where I didn't do the right thing, and ever since I was a kid, I always prided myself on doing the right thing. And this is a moment where I didn't, which doesn't make me feel good, right? So, yeah. So anyway, that being said, we're gonna move past that, right? My question for you all is: do you have any questions about anything that's going on with you? Any questions? If you do have questions, you know how we operate, right? You just drop it in the comments. You also are very, very welcome to actually join us live on the show if you want to. Right? I got my headphones. I'm kind of ready for this situation, so you can join me on the show as well, and then we can go from there. So yeah, so that was a good one. That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. It got me a little bit emotional. All right, so question. The first question is, what was the smallest what was the smallest self sabotage you generally seen someone else commit? Um, oh, so a good example that I classically see is people who come to my training and they want a job and they don't really look. They go out on LinkedIn, drop a couple emails here and there, but they don't really do a wholehearted look, right? They don't treat their job search as if it's really truly important, right? Um, and so there was one time CT, um, I trained somebody like years prior, and then my oldest of the daughters, but she's like kid number 5. She, I was at her graduation, and somebody who I trained pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, Devon, yeah, man, yeah, man, I was in your training, da 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 da." And I said, "Man, okay, cool, man. So how did the scrum thing turn out for you, man? What you doing with it?" So I haven't gotten a chance to use it yet, and that was like 3-4 years later, you know. And I just was like, "Oh, this is just crazy, right?" I remember another guy named, I won't even call his name out. His name starts with a V, so he'll know who I'm talking about. And this dude came back to my class to do a refresher and had not used it. But then when he decided to take advantage of it, then he did some great stuff, right? So really the smallest things I see is in the small daily actions that people do. Like instead of instead of taking the hour to update your resume, I'm gonna take an hour and spend it on TikTok. Yeah, that doesn't help, right? Let's see. The biggest one I've seen. Oh, the biggest one I've seen has been issues with discrimination or, yeah, the biggest ones I've seen have been things with legal issues in organizations. Because I've seen several legal issues within organizations. That is selfishness. They self sabotage themselves. They're going up the chain of command, getting promotion after promotion, and then they decide to run into a big issue. And it's an issue that they put themselves in by no stretch of the imagination. So the biggest ones I've ever seen was ones that turned into legal issues in HR. Those are the biggest ones, and that normally has major fallouts, right? So it is one of those things where when you have fallouts like that, especially when it's a high level like executives, boy, you have such a big impact on people's lives. It's just a huge impact on people's lives that end up happening. And those are the ones I feel really bad about because there's nothing that I can do, when leaders don't make the good decisions that they should be making. So yeah, so those are really the two that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It really is those little steps. Like I wish I could say something different, but it's the little things, right? It's the little things. They really do add up. It's kind of like this is my list of things that I need to do this weekend. Like it's a whole list of them, whole list of things I need to do this weekend. Did I get them all done? There's a couple items here struck out, but I really didn't get them all done because the biggest thing I had to do was homework. Um, all of these things are small steps. All of them are small steps. They're small steps toward something else, right? So a great example is, um, somebody reached out to us and said, "Hey, I want to know what's your calendar for the first 3 months in 2025." It wasn't up. So I went ahead and got the first 3 months out, right? And then today, what I need to do is get the rest of 2025 out, at least for CSM, CSPO, since those are the bigger classes. Now, the statement is that the only thing that I need to do? No, I need to set up email marketing. I need to do set up payment systems. I need to do this, to do all this stuff for those classes for next year. There's a whole slew of things that I got to do. But the first thing that I got to make sure of is make sure that this is available. And that's a small step that has to happen in a business, right? If I was applying for jobs, I probably would make a goal for myself to apply for 2 jobs, 4 days a week. 2 jobs a day for 4 days a week. So that means that each week I'm doing about 8 jobs. And I wouldn't stop that. I know it'd just be tough. And the only reason why I say 2 jobs a day is because I wouldn't be just pressing the button and sending my resume. I'd be doing job scans to make sure that I'm hitting an 80% match, so I can make sure I'm getting to the applicant tracking system. And my real goal would be to make sure that 90% of my applications are making it through the applicant tracking system. So to me, is all those little small steps help with the much bigger things, right? In terms of getting my dissertation down, I had a book I needed to read. I just read 1 chapter a day. 1 chapter a day. I didn't have time to sit down and read the whole thing, but just 1 chapter a day, right? For several weeks. Not for several weeks, 14 chapters, right? So about 2 weeks, right? So, those little small things, right, is important, right? And one of the things that I realized, when I was helping my friend out, with their resume, one thing that was really important, Denise, is some of these organizations at this point has a chat bot, and that chat bot is the representation of the ATS, of the applicant tracking system, where you submit and that thing will tell you whether you're qualified or going to move on to other candidates. You understand? I've had this experience. You feel me? Where you put your resume in, it doesn't match, so it lets you know, hey, you don't really qualify. We're going to be moving on to other candidates. It says it much nicer than that, right? Now, there's nobody behind a computer that's doing that. So that got to be, AI, stuff like that, right? I mean, literally, I kid you not. Denise, this is serious, right? I'm not joking you, right? I'm really not joking you. And I did this. When I say this to you, Denise, we was applying for jobs for her in the past 2 weeks. I would say it was probably last week. No. Just say the past 2 weeks. So I kid you not. And then there was for her we put in a resume that was for a job related to fraud. She has no fraud experience. But you know how people have those they'll have a job that's a project manager job or a scrum master job, but it says all these other different things that you got to have and expect you to be focused on those things, but it really is, you really look at the core of it, it really is a scrum master job, a project manager job. This was exactly that. But it was said, you got to have fraud experience, you got to have this, you got to say all these things. Man, we made her resume hit an 85% match to the job description. It made it through the robot, and then a human reached out to her the next day. A real person reached out to her the next day and said, yeah, we have just basically said we're moving on to other candidates, right? So yeah, it's not a joke. It's not a joke, for real. You got to understand, the whole reason why people are using AI is because AI can help you get the same productivity with less human impact, right? So if a human can put out so much, right? If I bring AI in, I can actually have AI put out, let's say 75% of what the human can do, and then them only do 25% and then spend 75% of their time doing something else. Like truly vetting the resumes that have made it through the ATS that are more qualified and taking their, combing through it to make sure they're truly qualified. who's going to move forward to the next stage and who's not. So you want to be able to get past the ATS, and a lot of you all aren't getting past the ATS. Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with you. You need to make sure. You need to make sure that your resume matches up to the job description, to what the qualifications are. If you don't do that, like, okay, so just think about this, Denise. Think about this for a second, right? And I'm talking, right? And I need you all to understand this, because this is for real. Anybody here that's been around here prior to, like, let's just say, was applying for jobs in the 90s, the 2000s, early 2010s, right? You know, you remember when Monster came out in the 2000s, how it became so easy to start just applying for jobs, right? It is way easier today than when websites like Monster and Dice came out to help you apply for you to apply for jobs, right? It's easier, right? But think about it for a second. Think about how much effort it takes you today to just apply for a job versus how much effort it took you prior to these tools existing. Just think about it. Yeah, just think about it, right? So if anybody can apply, anybody, they get way more resumes than what they used to. But how do they know who to move forward with? Would it be easier if I had artificial intelligence tell me who the 80-20 sweet spot is, get the 20% out, so I can focus on them instead of the rest and let the rest go? You know, just is what it is, right? You can't get beyond it, right? And yeah, I would say it's a good idea to match your resume to the job. It's a bad idea to not scan your resume against the job to make sure you are including certain keywords and certain information that needs to be included. You got to understand that a computer may not be able to tell you. It may say to you, you know what, you have let's see, project management, and you didn't put project management in your whatchamacallit, in your resume. You put project manager in there someplace, but not project management. Well, you don't match that keyword, right? You don't match that keyword. So you need to understand what that job is looking for and how you match up to it. Super important. Like, super important. So yeah, so I would definitely say take the time. And when I say when we updated our resume, it took 2 hours. Took 2 hours. Like, I kid you not, took 2 hours. It was a long time, right? But I think you build up several resumes over time, and it can become helpful, right? Yeah, it takes time. I mean, literally, when I say to you, it took time. It took time, and that right there, you talking about for 2 resumes, it taking 2 to 4 hours to get done. Man, that's the reason why I say, you know, if I was applying for a job today, I mean, I would just, you know, and you know, you can use AI to help you, obviously, but the thing is it would take me 2 to 4 hours, right? So you gotta start thinking about these things, right? So, yeah, great point. And hybrid work was relatively non-existent for most of the population. Yeah, we are immigrants to take this technology. We weren't born into it. We just weren't. I look at how fast my kids type on their cell phones. It's way different than how fast I type. It's just different. There ain't much not a whole lot you can do about that. So, questions that you have. Yeah, so I'm not kidding about that ATS, man. I'm not joking. I really do. From what it felt like they were using the chat bot to double check whether we matched or not in terms of their requirements when the resume is submitted. I have to tell you that one, man. No equivocation. Yeah. So yeah. So any questions? It looks like we may be a little lightweight today, which is all right. Um, how can maintaining consistency impact overcoming self-sabotage? That can be overwhelming to take a couple of hours to submit a resume. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think consistency is the major thing. You know, here's what I would say to you about that, which I think is really, really important. So when we were doing the job scan, when we did the first resume, it was easier to do the second resume, which made it easier to do the third resume because now we're keying in on what they're looking for, and so we're learning. And I think that consistency, or just doing a little bit all the time, is helpful. It's helpful to be able to get, right? Because the statement clearly is, if you are really looking hard for a job, how many jobs should you apply for in a week? Is applying for 1,000 jobs where you may or may not meet the requirements better than applying for maybe 4 jobs that you matched on at a 95% level? You understand? But how do you get to that place where you can get those resumes out? You know, if I had to go down to one a day, you know, when I say one a day, 4 times a week, that means I've gotten 4 of them out. To me, that's a great way to think, right? Um, you know, and you know, it's just one of those things, right? And hey, if you can get out 5 to 10, that's good, because my thought process is literally 2 per night. 2 per night. 3 to 4 times a week. That'll be 6 to 8. Yeah. So that's how I think about it. So I think that consistency can help you out tremendously. So I would just do smaller batches of whatever it is to try to get ourselves over the hump, right? Let's see. Let me go to the next question. So hopefully that helped out. Next question here. Question 2. What do you see so far in your PhD program that is reminding you of what not to do towards self-sabotage? Within the PhD program, actually, I actually would say, oh, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you, man. The assignments. The assignments. When I think about that, CT, it's the assignments, right? Because there are, in the PhD program I'm in, there's at least 4 assignments due a week. Every week there's 4 assignments, minimum 4 assignments, right? That doesn't include any responses, because every single discussion post, they got to have 2 different responses, or 2 responses to 2 different people. If I got 3 or 4 of those responses add up. And so for me, you know, I've been able to, okay, so the first thing I gotta say is I'm ADD. So it's hard for me to concentrate for long periods of time on stuff. Since I'm ADD, you know, CT, I have to do a little bit of it all the time. If I don't do a little bit of it, then I run into the possibility of failing, right? Now I'm at the point now where I have 2 classes this semester to finish, 1 more class after this, the prospectus, and then it's in the dissertation. I've gotten A's all the way through. All A's. Okay? But that's been that's been me 5 out of 7 days touching and logging in to my portal for my PhD program so I can do something 5 to 6 days a week. Mondays is horrible for me. That's usually the day that I can't do much of anything. But legitimately, for me, it started off with, I need to log in every single day and make sure I touch something, I do something, I read something, I do something, right? because it helps me out tremendously. And so, right now, if I be honest with you, man, I could pack it in because there's nothing that's gonna stop me from graduating except for me getting F's. So I gotta pass or fail right now. You gotta have an 80% to pass on that. That's gonna be easy for me. I got another regular class. Even if I was to barely pass that class and get a C, I'm still gonna walk. I'm still gonna walk across the stage. So what I'm doing right now is those little assignments every day. CT is what I'm utilizing to prepare me for being able to work on that dissertation 5 to 6 times every single week. Just touch it. You understand? So my objective is every day to touch my PhD program in some kind of way. Every day, touch it in some kind of way. So that consistency for me has been huge. Forget the lessons, because that consistency, that going in every single day, that's what's gonna get me through that PhD. It sounds crazy, but it's not even assignments, man. It's just the rhythm, the pattern, the getting through it. Sometimes when I'm not in class, I don't even know what to do with myself. I really don't. Like when we get the 2 weeks off, I don't know what to do with myself, man. I'd be a little antsy at that point. But that was a really good question, brother, for real. Really good question. Let's see. Let's continue to go. Let's see. Okay, you got another one. CT got the next one here. So let's talk about this one. How has writing your website articles and research-based papers helped in highlighting how to avoid or learn from self-sabotage in the industry? I think the writing stuff is important. And I would say that it's the practice of it that has helped more than anything else, right? The research papers, man, as you know, they take a tremendous amount of time. If anybody's written research papers where you have to have all these dang on citations, you got to do all this paraphrasing, and now I'm at the point now where people have the expectations that when I actually write, almost every single, like 80% of the sentences have a citation. So, I'm looking at a 3-page paper for which I have five pages of actual citations, right? And it's mind-boggling, man. It really is. So for me, it is still the practice of doing those things that's actually helping me. Now, here's the deal. It's teaching me also to not avoid just dealing with the thing that's in front of you. Dealing with the thing that's make you nervous, make you scared. I mean, every single semester I start off, I feel like, why am I supposed to be here? Why am I here? I shouldn't be here, right? But getting back into the thick of it is what helps me avoid, right, not doing what I need to do. So it's taught me to grab the bull by the horns and go deal with it. Even if you don't understand it perfectly, go deal with it. I got a bad grade on an assignment that took my grade lower than what I was supposed to. I still got an A in the class, but I had to have a real conversation with the teacher because I didn't really understand what was going on, and they understood. They understand what my responses were, but it was a whole thing. I was panicked I was gonna get a B. So I definitely would say those articles, that constant practice, is what's important. When I sit and I relax, I realize that I get distracted, and it makes me hard to get back to it. So, like tonight, right after the show, I'm gonna drink me a ginger beer, and I'm gonna go to bed. Why? Because I'm gonna get up right in the morning, and the first thing I'm gonna do, like I'm gonna write it on my list tonight, is I'm gonna log in, right? I'm gonna log in. Tonight I had to work on a status report, at least the formulation of a status report, but I'll be logging in. But that consistency is what's helping me. And the fear of writing a paper, because every time I start a class, I have a fear of writing a paper. I just really do. Just always comes to me, right? So it takes me a little bit long to get started, but what do I learn? To just go do it. Even if you don't go get that far in it, you start writing some stuff down, so then at least you're moving. Just move, right? So that's really important. So hopefully that answers it, CT. If I didn't, help me out with it, okay? How can someone effectively identify fears of success? I mean, I want to be successful. How do let me show it. Let me show it because I'm not showing it, right? How do I know if I'm against myself? Am I hating myself? Is it a mental illness? I wouldn't say it's a mental illness. I definitely wouldn't say that. Um, the question I would ask you is, here's the deal. A lot of people don't know that they're self-sabotaging themselves. But the question is, are you taking the actions that's needed for you to be successful? And I'm not talking about saying doing actions just for the sake of doing it, right? I'm not saying doing it just for the sake of doing it. So I need to go back to that example where I didn't have that conversation. I'm an introvert. I have problems with just having conversations with people just out the blue who I haven't met, don't know. They don't really know much of me. I have real problems with that, right? And that prevented me from maybe earning 100, 200,000, maybe $1 million on contracts over the next 3 years. That's the cost of that for me. Does that make sense? Because I had the fear of reaching out to them. And because I was afraid of being successful. So I self-sabotaged myself by not making the call, not making the connection that was given to me by hand. So it's just, you don't realize it in the moment a lot of times because hopefully you'll stop yourself. But when you do realize it, you see what was going on, right? Around you. See what was happening in your life and see what you can change. But the statement is that the work ain't going to do it by itself. It's not going to do it. The work is not going to work itself. So if the work is not going to work itself, then you need to get out and get the work done. It's just really that simple. If you don't, you're likely not going to be as successful as you want to be. You can talk the talk. I know tons of people that talk the talk. But talking the talk ain't good enough, man. It's just not. It's just not. Right? Yeah. So I would say to you, it's not just the desire to be successful. You got to put in the work. You got to take the actions. If you don't take the actions, then it's not going to happen. It's just really very simple. Yeah, Denise. Hopefully that helped you with hopefully that answer helped. You've been an introvert and not comfortable reaching out to people. Yeah, it seems odd, man, but I'm an introvert. According to MBTI, I'm an introvert with all extroverted facets. So I'm a very weird mix, but trust me, I can be gregarious. I can do all these kind of things, and I got to go sit in the corner at some point just to get it all back. So that's just what happens with me. I'm going to be honest with you, Denise, and don't take this the wrong way. It's not meant to be sexist in any kind of way. Here's the deal. I found that extroverts had all the prettiest girls. Yeah. That's what I saw as a kid. People who were willing to take the risk, no matter how ugly they were as men. They had all the prettiest girls. The guys that were not willing to take a risk, that was not willing to have their feelings hurt, had the girls that was left behind. That's what I noticed. And I told myself I'm not going to end up with somebody who I don't want to see in the morning. Right? It's one of those things where you take the risk, and that risk is of rejection, at least in that situation. But it is one of those things where I say to myself, go ahead and take care of it, get it out the way. You don't want to have any regrets, right? But then I go sit my butt in the corner, right? After and get myself back together. So, you got to know who you are in that situation and do accordingly, right? So, yeah, me too, having to go sit in the corner because I would be worn out. Yeah, that's me. So you understand, right? And if you do understand that about yourself, to give yourself that room. So you'll see me, they be like, hey man, go to a networking event. I'll go, but what's going to happen is I'm going to make sure I meet every single person in the room. I'm going to make sure that every single person knows who I am. And if it's a 4-hour party, for the 30 minutes that I'm there, they're going to know I was there. You understand? They're going to know I was there because I'm going to go and touch every single person. Probably if it max an hour, right? I'm gonna be in and I'm gonna be out, but they gonna know I was there. I'm not kidding you, right? I remember when I went to a networking event when I worked at Tech Systems, we went to their office and everything else, man. They had reason why I got this gong right here, this thing right here. The reason why I got this thing right here, why I can do this, is because literally when I say to you, I did that in the office meeting. It was there. I never seen one in real life. I was thinking about the Gong Show, and I was like, "Hey man, I got to hit the gong." I hit the gong. Everybody know who the heck I was, but I was out of there within 15 minutes. Not because I was mad about the gong, but the statement clearly is, "What am I trying to do? I want everybody to know my name, man. I want everybody to remember who I am, and I want to do that in the least amount of time. Just facts, right?" So while y'all are there hanging out with each other for the next 2 hours, I'm at the cribbo, chilling out with nobody around me so I can get my E back. I'm just saying. There's just facts, right? So what happens for me? I don't know how it happens for you, but for me, that's how it happens. I figure it out. But yeah, you gotta go off in the corner and get your energy back. It's very true. So just part of what it is, right? Just part of what it is. I don't know how else to put it. So yeah. So I'm like, this is good. So any other questions, y'all? Looks like our questions may have dried up. How do you overcome it? I think I talked about this, but to be honest with you, Denise, I just take the risk, because it really is just about taking a risk. For me, I think about what I'm gonna miss out on if I don't do it. Like, it's legitimately like that. What I'm gonna miss out on if I don't do it. The best way I can put it is, if I was sitting, if I saw somebody who I really wanted to meet, and we were on a plane, I may never cross paths with them again. May never cross paths with them again. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I cross paths with them in some kind of way. So for me, it's that fear of missing out. It's that fear of not having the things that I deserve to have. It's that, that I shouldn't have any less. So really, the fear of missing out for me is probably the biggest thing. And again, if you was able to work with me, you'll notice these are the exact things that I do. Like, seriously. So on that note, looks like we're going to go wrap it up. Looks like we had a good night, y'all. Y'all asked some good questions. These are pretty solid questions. And the questions that you all asked was on topic. I don't think I've ever had a show where most of the questions were kind of on topic, right? So that's actually pretty good. So I want to say I appreciate y'all. I want to say thank you. I'll be sending this out a little bit earlier next week, because tomorrow I'll work on what we're going to work on as a topic tomorrow. I want to do something about gamification. That's what I've been thinking about lately. I wrote an article about it. I haven't released it, but I've been thinking about it harsh. But we'll get there for that, But on that note, y'all, this has been a pleasure. It usually is with you all. I want to say thank you. I'm going to see you on the Agile journey. You all have an amazing, amazing rest of the week. I'll see you all later. Peace. Have a good one.